Ladies and gentlemen, there is one relationship in your life that affects every other relationship you will ever have. It determines how you show up at work, in love, in friendship, in failure, and in success. It shapes the way you lead, the way you serve, the way you live. That relationship is the one you have with yourself. We often chase relationships, approval, and admiration from others, believing that if enough people love us, value us, or see us, we'll finally feel whole. But the truth is, none of those things can fill a space that only one person is responsible for you. The longest, most intimate, and most impactful relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. It's with you when you wake up in the morning. It's with you during every high and every low. It's the voice inside your head when no one else is around. And yet, for most of us, it's the relationship we neglect the most. We learn to say I love you to partners, to family, to friends. But how often do we say it to ourselves? Not in the mirror as a cliche, but in the way we show up for ourselves through our choices, our boundaries, our inner dialogue. We criticize ourselves more than we would ever dare criticize someone we love. We forgive others more easily than we forgive ourselves. We give kindness, empathy, and second chances to people who hurt us, but when it comes to our own missteps, we tighten the grip and demand perfection. That's not a relationship. That's a war. What would change if we stopped and asked, what kind of partner am I to myself? Am I supportive or am I judgmental? Do I build myself up, or do I tear myself down at every opportunity? Do I listen to my needs, or do I constantly silence them to meet the expectations of others? Most people aren't even aware of the toxic patterns they've built with themselves, because we live in a world that celebrates external achievements and suppresses internal well-being. But the foundation of everything you are, your confidence, your ability to lead, your strength in adversity starts with how you relate to yourself. Not the persona you show to the world, not the mask, but the real you, the one that only you truly know. And here's the beautiful, sometimes uncomfortable reality: the quality of your relationship with yourself directly influences the quality of every other relationship in your life. If you don't value your time, you'll allow others to waste it. If you don't believe you're worthy of love, you'll tolerate treatment that reflects that belief. If you don't respect your own boundaries, others won't either. It all starts with you. So ask yourself, if you had to spend the rest of your life with someone exactly like you, your thoughts, your energy, your inner voice, would you be happy? Would you feel safe, seen, supported? If the answer is no, then it's time to stop outsourcing your self-worth. Time to end the neglect, the self-abandonment, and the conditional love. You are the one person who will never leave you. You are the constant. And when you begin to treat that relationship with the reverence it deserves, everything else, absolutely everything else, starts to shift. There's a lie many of us have been taught to believe. A quiet, well-dressed lie that sneaks into our thinking early in life and never really goes away. The lie says that loving yourself is selfish, that putting yourself first is arrogance, that taking care of your own needs before others makes you less kind, less generous, less good. And so we give, we overextend, we sacrifice, not from abundance, but from depletion, telling ourselves it's noble to keep going, even when we're running on empty. But here's the truth: self-love is not selfish. It's essential. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about recognizing that you're just as worthy as everyone else. If you don't care for yourself, who will? If you don't meet your own needs, how can you authentically show up for anyone else? You can't give what you don't have. And trying to pour from an empty cup doesn't make you more virtuous, it just makes you exhausted. We've created this cultural narrative that burnout is a badge of honor, that being busy is a measure of importance, that being selfless means putting everyone else before ourselves. But the word selfless literally suggests the absence of self. And how can you build anything meaningful, love, family, leadership, impact, if you erase yourself in the process? Real self-love is quiet. It's not loud or flashy. It's in the daily decisions, choosing rest instead of one more task, saying no when everything in you wants to be liked, creating boundaries, not walls, feeding your body with care, speaking to yourself with compassion, especially when you've made a mistake. It's having the courage to say, I matter too. This kind of love builds trust. When you consistently show up for yourself, not just when life is good, but especially when it's hard, you begin to believe in your own worth, not because someone else told you, but because you've lived it. You've earned it through action. And when you love yourself deeply, you don't need to chase external validation. You become rooted. You stop being a leaf blowing in the wind of other people's opinions. Loving yourself isn't about isolation either. It's not about ignoring others. In fact, it allows you to love others better. When you're full, your kindness is authentic, not performative. Your giving comes from joy, not obligation. Your presence becomes more powerful because it's not fragmented by resentment or fatigue. You can give more freely because it's no longer a transaction for approval, it's an overflow. So no, self-love isn't selfish. It's oxygen. It's foundation. It's the one thing that enables everything else to grow. The more you love yourself, the more grounded you become. And the more grounded you are, the more light you bring to every person, every space, every moment you touch. That's not selfish. That's necessary. Most people know what they do. Some know how they do it. But very few people ever stop to ask why they do it. And when it comes to self-love, this question matters more than we realize. Because until you understand why you deserve your own love beyond achievements, beyond image, beyond status, everything you do for yourself will feel like a performance instead of a relationship. Self-love rooted in conditions is not love at all. It's approval. And approval is fleeting. It shifts with your success, your failures, your mistakes, your wins. Love, real love, doesn't waver like that. We've been trained to attach our worth to outcomes. Win the award, then you're proud of yourself. Get the promotion, then you feel valuable. Look a certain way, then you deserve rest or kindness. But that's backwards. Those things are not the reason you deserve love. They're just byproducts of being human and trying. The truth is, your worth is not in what you do, it's in who you are. When you understand your why, everything changes. You stop treating self-love like a reward and start treating it like a necessity. You stop waiting to deserve compassion and start giving it freely, especially when you need it most. You begin to realize that your value is not something you earn, it's something you embody. And once that clicks, once you stop chasing external permission to care for yourself, you become unshakable. This isn't just some feel-good mantra. It's practical. If you don't know your why you matter, why you are enough as you are, you'll keep searching for it in people, in outcomes, in achievements. And when those things go away, and they will at times, you'll feel lost. But when your why is anchored deep inside you, no storm can shake it. Because it's not tied to what's happening around you. It's tied to what's true within you. Ask yourself, why do I deserve love for myself, even on my worst days? The answer should never be, because I did something great. The answer should be, because I am human. Because I am here. Because I am trying. That's enough. That has always been enough. But you have to believe it. Knowing your why helps you navigate your own internal compass instead of constantly checking someone else's map. You make choices from alignment, not anxiety. You set boundaries with clarity, not guilt. You speak with confidence, not because you're trying to impress, but because you're rooted in something deeper than approval. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to belong to yourself. And that's the most powerful shift of all. Because when your self-love is based on your unshakable why, nothing anyone else says or does can take it away. You stop being a reflection of the world, and you start being a light within it. And that right there is the beginning of real, lasting freedom. When you start to genuinely love yourself, something powerful begins to happen. You stop settling. Not because you become harder to please, but because you finally understand your worth. You begin to realize that you are not here to simply tolerate life. You're not meant to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed to hold your value. Loving yourself isn't just about feeling good, it's about waking up to the truth that you are allowed to ask for more, to expect more, to be more. Not out of entitlement, but out of alignment. Settling doesn't always look like misery. Sometimes it looks like quiet frustration. A job that drains your soul but pays the bills. A relationship where you're constantly shrinking to avoid conflict. A life that looks good on paper but feels hollow in the quiet moments. We tell ourselves this is just how it is, that we should be grateful, that we're being realistic. But deep down, there's a quiet voice that keeps asking, is this all there is? That voice isn't your ego. It's your truth trying to get your attention. When you don't love yourself, you trade your peace for approval. You tolerate behavior that doesn't honor you because you think it's better than being alone. You accept less than you need because you believe asking for more makes you difficult. But love, real love, never asks you to shrink. And that includes the love you give yourself. It expands you, it makes room for your dreams, your values, your needs. When you love yourself, settling becomes uncomfortable. Not because you're ungrateful, but because you've raised your internal standards. You start to pay attention to how things feel instead of how they look. You notice when your energy dips in certain environments, when conversations drain instead of energize, when situations feel like survival instead of growth. You no longer need to justify walking away from things that don't serve you. You no longer seek permission to choose peace. You stop over-explaining your boundaries. And that's because you finally believe that your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable. You don't just say it, you live like it. This doesn't mean life becomes perfect. It doesn't mean you become rigid or closed off. It means you become intentional. You understand that love isn't supposed to hurt. And fulfillment isn't a luxury. It's a signal you're on the right path. You stop playing small to make others comfortable. You stop performing for acceptance. You move from people-pleasing to self-respect. You speak truth over convenience. And here's the beauty of it all. When you stop settling, you start attracting not just better people or opportunities, but a version of yourself you've never fully met before. A version that's bold, whole, liberated. That version doesn't need to chase anything because they've already chosen themselves. That's what happens when self-love becomes your standard. You stop settling for survival and you start living for more. The way you love yourself teaches the world how to love you. It sets the tone. It defines the standard. People don't just observe your boundaries, they respond to them. They don't just notice how you treat yourself, they mirror. You are constantly showing others what is acceptable in your life by the way you show up for yourself. The problem is, most of us are unconsciously teaching people that we are available for less than we deserve simply because we haven't yet decided that we are worthy of more. When you don't speak up for yourself, others learn that your voice can be ignored. When you overextend, say yes when you mean no, stay silent to keep the peace, what you're really doing is creating a blueprint for how others can treat you. And it doesn't come from a place of weakness. It comes from a desire to be liked, accepted, understood. But the cost of being liked at the expense of being respected is too high, because what starts as people-pleasing becomes self-abandonment. What starts as compromise becomes a pattern of making yourself small so others can feel comfortable. But when you begin to love yourself, everything shifts. You begin to realize that your time is valuable, your voice is powerful, and your needs matter. You stop seeking validation and start creating standards. You begin to understand that boundaries are not about keeping people out, they're about keeping you whole. They're about protecting the parts of you that are sacred, the parts of you that took years to build. And when you enforce those boundaries, not from anger, but from self-respect, something incredible happens. People start treating you different. You don't have to demand respect when you carry yourself like someone who expects it. You don't have to constantly explain your worth when you live in alignment with it. People feel your energy before you say a word. And when you love yourself, that energy says, this is a person who knows who they are. This is a person who won't be manipulated, used, or forgotten. That quiet confidence is magnetic. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need attention. It simply exists and others take notice. Loving yourself also teaches others how to love themselves. You become an example. You give others permission to say no, to rest, to choose what's right for them, instead of what's expected. You shift the room without saying much at all. It's not about control. It's about clarity. It's about showing up as the most authentic version of yourself and letting the world rise or fall around that truth. Not everyone will meet you at your standard. That's okay. You're not for everyone. But the right people, the ones meant to walk beside you, will never ask you to lower your worth to meet them halfway. The way you treat yourself is the most powerful message you send to the world. Make sure it says, I know who I am. I know what I deserve. And I'm not afraid to act like it. You are enough right now. Not someday, not after you've fixed all your flaws, reached all your goals, or checked off every box on the list you've been carrying around for years. Right now. As you are. And the reason this is so hard to believe is because we've been taught that worth is something we earn. That love must be proven. That only when we're perfect or close to it do we finally deserve to feel proud, to feel whole, to feel at peace. But the truth is, you came into this world worthy. Before anyone told you who you should be, before you ever failed or succeeded, before you ever had something to prove, you were already enough. And that hasn't changed. What's changed is your perception. Somewhere along the way, you started measuring yourself with someone else's ruler. You internalized the idea that your value depends on your productivity, your image, your popularity, your results. And when you fall short, and you will because you're human, you start to feel like you're not good enough, like you're behind, like something is wrong with you. But nothing is wrong with you. You're growing. You're becoming. You're learning. And none of that disqualifies you from love, not from others. And definitely not from yourself. You don't need to fix everything to be deserving of grace. You don't have to reach some magical milestone to be proud of who you are. The moment you decide to stop holding your love hostage until you arrive, that's the moment you start becoming truly free. We have this habit of postponing our self-acceptance. We say, I'll love myself when I lose the weight, when I get the job, when I'm more confident, when they finally see my worth. But that's a trap. Because every time you reach one of those goals, a new condition appears. The target moves. And suddenly you're chasing a finish line that never really existed in the first place. What would happen if, instead of chasing perfection, you chose compassion? What if you met yourself in this exact moment and said, I am enough not because of what I've done, but because of who I am? That kind of love doesn't just feel good, it changes everything. It removes fear from your choices. It quiets the voice that says you're not ready. It helps you stop waiting and start living. And here's the irony. When you love yourself now, as you are, you actually grow faster. You become more creative, more resilient, more open because you're not weighed down by shame or fear. You're driven by belief, not lack. You don't need to do more to be worthy. You don't need to be anyone other than who you are to deserve love. You are already the person you've been waiting to become. And when you accept that deeply, fully, you stop waiting for life to begin. Because it already has.